The Battle of Chattanooga, a comprehensive analysis. The Battle of Chattanooga, fought from November 23 to November 25, 1863, was a pivotal engagement in the American Civil War. It marked a significant turning point in the conflict, as it opened the door for Union forces to advance into the Deep South, ultimately leading to the capture of Atlanta and the subsequent march to the sea. This article will provide an in-depth analysis of the Battle of Chattanooga, examining its historical context, the key players involved, the strategic importance of Chattanooga, the major engagements that comprised the battle, and its lasting impact on the Civil War and American history. Historical context. The American Civil War. A nation divided. The American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, was a conflict between the northern states, the Union, and the southern states, the Confederacy, over issues including states' rights, economic policies, and, most prominently, the institution of slavery. By 1863, the war had been raging for 2 years, with both sides suffering heavy casualties and the outcome still very much in doubt. The Western Theater. The Civil War was fought in two main theaters: the Eastern Theater, which included Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania, and the Western Theater, which encompassed the area west of the Appalachian Mountains and east of the Mississippi River. The Western Theater was crucial to the Union's strategy, as control of the Mississippi River would split the Confederacy in two and sever its supply lines. The importance of Chattanooga. Chattanooga, Tennessee, was a strategically vital city due to its location at the junction of several major railroads, including the Nashville and Chattanooga Railroad and the Western and Atlantic Railroad. These railroads were essential for the movement of troops and supplies, making Chattanooga a key logistical hub for both the Union and the Confederacy. The road to Chattanooga. In the summer of 1863, Union Major General William S. Rosecrans led the Army of the Cumberland in a campaign to capture Chattanooga. After a series of maneuvers, Rosecrans successfully forced Confederate General Bragg to abandon the city in early September. However, Bragg's Army of Tennessee regrouped and launched a counteroffensive, leading to the Battle of Chattanooga, September 19 to 20, 1863, where the Union suffered a significant defeat. Rosecrans retreated to Chattanooga, where his army was besieged by Bragg's forces. The Siege of Chattanooga. The Union's precarious position following the defeat at Chickamauga. Rosecrans' Army of the Cumberland was trapped in Chattanooga, with Bragg's Confederate forces occupying the high ground surrounding the city, including Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge. The Confederates controlled the railroads and roads leading into Chattanooga, effectively cutting off Union supply lines. The situation was dire, as the Union troops faced the prospect of starvation and surrender. The arrival of Ulysses S. Grant. In response to the crisis, President Abraham Lincoln reorganized the Union command structure in the Western Theater. Major General Ulysses S. Grant was given command of all Union forces in the West, and he quickly moved to relieve the besieged Army of the Cumberland. Grant arrived in Chattanooga in late October 1863 and immediately set about improving the supply situation, opening a new supply route known as the Cracker Line to bring food and ammunition to the trapped Union troops. The Confederate strategy. Bragg's Confederate forces, though in a strong defensive position, were not without their own challenges. The Confederate Army was plagued by internal divisions, with several of Bragg's subordinate commanders openly criticizing his leadership. Additionally, the Confederate supply situation was tenuous, as their own supply lines were stretched thin. Bragg hoped to maintain the siege and force the Union Army to surrender, but he underestimated Grant's determination and resourcefulness. The Battle of Chattanooga. Key engagements. The Battle of Chattanooga consisted of several major engagements, each of which played a crucial role in the overall outcome of the battle. These engagements included the Battle of Orchard Knob, the Battle of Lookout Mountain, and the Battle of Missionary Ridge. The Battle of Orchard Knob, November 23, 1863. The Battle of Orchard Knob was the opening engagement of the Battle of Chattanooga. Orchard Knob was a small hill located between the Union and Confederate lines, and its capture would provide the Union with a forward position from which to launch further attacks. Union preparations. Grant ordered Major General George H. Thomas, commander of the Army of the Cumberland, to capture Orchard Knob. Thomas's troops were eager to redeem themselves after their defeat at Chickamauga, and they prepared for the assault with determination. The assault on Orchard Knob. On the afternoon of November 23, Union forces advanced on Orchard Knob, quickly overwhelming the Confederate defenders. the Union troops secured the hill with relatively light casualties, and the victory provided a much-needed boost to their morale. Significance of Orchard Knob. The capture of Orchard Knob gave the Union a strategic foothold and allowed Grant to plan further operations against the Confederate positions on Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge. The Battle of Lookout Mountain, November 24, 1863. The Battle of Lookout Mountain, often referred to as the Battle Above the Clouds, was a dramatic engagement that saw Union forces assault the Confederate-held Lookout Mountain, which dominated the southern approach to Chattanooga. Union strategy. Grant assigned the task of capturing Lookout Mountain to Major General Joseph Hooker, who commanded a force composed of troops from the Army of the Cumberland and the Army of the Tennessee. Hooker's plan was to attack the Confederate positions on the mountain from multiple directions, using the terrain to his advantage. The assault on Lookout Mountain. On the morning of November 24, Hooker's forces began their assault on Lookout Mountain. The battle was fought in dense fog, which obscured the battlefield and added to the confusion. Despite the challenging conditions, the Union troops made steady progress, driving the Confederates from their positions. The Battle Above the Clouds. The fog that enveloped Lookout Mountain during the battle gave rise to the nickname Battle Above the Clouds. The Union troops fought their way up the mountain, engaging in fierce hand-to-hand combat with the Confederate defenders. By the afternoon, the Union had secured the summit of Lookout Mountain, and the Confederates were forced to retreat. Significance of Lookout Mountain. The capture of Lookout Mountain was a significant victory for the Union, as it removed a major obstacle to their advance and further demoralized the Confederate forces. The battle also demonstrated the effectiveness of coordinated assaults and the importance of terrain in military operations. The Battle of Missionary Ridge, November 25, 1863. The Battle of Missionary Ridge was the decisive engagement of the Battle of Chattanooga. Missionary Ridge was a long, steep ridge that ran north-south to the east of Chattanooga, and it was the last major defensive position held by the Confederate Army. Union strategy. Grant's plan for the assault on Missionary Ridge involved a coordinated attack by multiple Union forces. Major General William T. Sherman was tasked with attacking the northern end of the ridge, while Hooker's forces would advance from Lookout Mountain to attack the southern end. Thomas's Army of the Cumberland would assault the center of the ridge. The assault on Missionary Ridge. On the morning of November 25, Sherman's forces launched their attack on the northern end of Missionary Ridge. However, they encountered stiff resistance from the Confederate defenders and were unable to make significant progress. Meanwhile, Hooker's forces were delayed in their advance, leaving Thomas's troops to bear the brunt of the fighting. The charge up Missionary Ridge. In the early afternoon, Thomas's troops began their assault on the center of Missionary Ridge. Despite the steep terrain and heavy Confederate fire, the Union soldiers pressed forward with remarkable determination. In a dramatic and unexpected turn of events, the Union troops not only reached the Confederate trenches at the base of the ridge but continued their charge up the slope, overwhelming the Confederate defenders and capturing the ridge. Significance of Missionary Ridge. The Union victory at Missionary Ridge was a decisive moment in the Battle of Chattanooga. The Confederate Army was forced to retreat, effectively ending the siege of Chattanooga and opening the way for Union forces to advance further into the South. The battle also demonstrated the effectiveness of aggressive tactics and the importance of morale in military operations. Aftermath and impact. The Confederate retreat. Following the Union victory at Missionary Ridge, Bragg's Confederate Army was in disarray. The Confederates retreated south into Georgia, abandoning their positions around Chattanooga. The Union pursuit was hampered by logistical challenges, but the Confederate Army was unable to regroup and mount an effective defense. The strategic importance of the Union victory. The Union victory at Chattanooga had far-reaching strategic implications. It secured control of a vital transportation hub, allowing the Union to move troops and supplies more easily into the Deep South. The victory also boosted Union morale and demonstrated the effectiveness of Grant's leadership, leading to his promotion to overall command of the Union armies. The road to Atlanta. With Chattanooga secured, Union forces were able to launch the Atlanta campaign in the spring of 1864. This campaign, led by Major General William T. Sherman, culminated in the capture of Atlanta in September 1864 and set the stage for Sherman's march to the sea, which further weakened the Confederate war effort. The impact on the Civil War. The Battle of Chattanooga marked a turning point in the Civil War. It shifted the momentum in favor of the Union and set the stage for the eventual Union victory. The battle also highlighted the importance of logistics, leadership, and morale in determining the outcome of military engagements. The legacy of the Battle of Chattanooga. The Battle of Chattanooga remains one of the most significant battles of the Civil War. It is remembered for the bravery and determination of the soldiers who fought there, as well as the strategic brilliance of Union commanders like Grant, Thomas, and Sherman. The battle also serves as a reminder of the sacrifices made by both sides during the Civil War and the enduring impact of the conflict on American history. The Battle of Chattanooga was a pivotal engagement in the American Civil War, with far-reaching consequences for the outcome of the conflict. The Union victory at Chattanooga secured control of a vital transportation hub, boosted Union morale, and set the stage for further advances into the Deep South. The battle demonstrated the importance of leadership, logistics, and morale in military operations, and it remains a testament to the bravery and determination of the soldiers who fought there. The legacy of the Battle of Chattanooga continues to be felt today, as it serves as a reminder of the sacrifices made during the Civil War and the enduring impact of the conflict on American history. The key strategies employed by General Ulysses S. Grant during the Battle of Chattanooga. Introduction. The Battle of Chattanooga, fought from November 23 to November 25, 1863, was a pivotal engagement in the American Civil War. It marked a significant turning point in the Western theater and demonstrated the strategic brilliance of General Ulysses S. Grant. The battle was a complex interplay of military tactics, logistics, and leadership, all of which were masterfully orchestrated by Grant to secure a decisive Union victory. This article delves into the key strategies employed by General Grant during the Battle of Chattanooga, examining the planning, execution, and outcomes of his actions. Background. The strategic importance of Chattanooga. Before delving into Grant's strategies, it is essential to understand the strategic importance of Chattanooga. Situated at the crossroads of several major railroads, Chattanooga was a vital transportation hub for the Confederacy. Control of the city would allow the Union to launch further offensives into the Deep South, particularly toward Atlanta, a critical Confederate industrial center. By the fall of 1863, the Union Army of the Cumberland, under Major General William S. Rosecrans, had been besieged in Chattanooga following their defeat at the Battle of Chickamauga. The Confederate Army of Tennessee, commanded by General Bragg, had effectively cut off Union supply lines, leaving Rosecrans' forces in a precarious position. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, President Abraham Lincoln appointed General Ulysses S. Grant as the overall commander of the Western Theater, tasking him with relieving the siege and securing Chattanooga. Grant's arrival and initial assessment. Upon his arrival in Chattanooga in October 1863, Grant immediately set about assessing the situation. He recognized that the Union forces were in a dire state, with supplies running low and morale plummeting. Grant's first priority was to reopen supply lines to the besieged army, ensuring that his troops were well fed and equipped for the upcoming battle. Reopening the Cracker Line. One of Grant's first strategic moves was to reopen the Cracker Line, a supply route that had been severed by Confederate forces. This route, which ran along the Tennessee River, was crucial for transporting food, ammunition, and other supplies to the Union troops in Chattanooga. Grant ordered Major General Joseph Hooker to lead a force from Bridgeport, Alabama, to Brown's Ferry, a key point along the Tennessee River. On October 27, 1863, Hooker's troops successfully seized Brown's Ferry, effectively reopening the supply line. This operation, known as the Battle of Wauhatchie, was a critical first step in Grant's overall strategy. By securing the Cracker Line, Grant ensured that his forces would be well supplied and ready for the upcoming battle. Strengthening defensive positions. With the supply lines reopened, Grant turned his attention to strengthening the Union's defensive positions around Chattanooga. He ordered the construction of additional fortifications and the reinforcement of existing ones, ensuring that the Union troops would be well protected against any Confederate assaults. Grant also recognized the importance of controlling the high ground around Chattanooga, particularly Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge. These positions offered commanding views of the city and the surrounding area, making them strategically valuable. Grant knew that securing these heights would be crucial for any offensive operations. Planning the offensive. Grant's strategic vision. With the immediate logistical challenges addressed, Grant began planning his offensive against the Confederate forces. His strategy was multifaceted, involving coordinated attacks on multiple fronts to overwhelm the Confederate defenses and force them to retreat. The role of Major General William T. Sherman. One of Grant's key decisions was to bring Major General William T. Sherman and his Army of the Tennessee to Chattanooga. Sherman's forces were known for their mobility and aggressiveness, and Grant believed that they would be instrumental in any offensive operations. Sherman's arrival in mid-November 1863 significantly bolstered the Union's strength in Chattanooga. Grant assigned Sherman the critical task of attacking the northern end of Missionary Ridge, a key Confederate defensive position. This attack was intended to draw Confederate forces away from the center of their line, creating opportunities for other Union forces to exploit. Coordinated attacks on Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge. Grant's overall plan involved coordinated attacks on both Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge. These attacks were designed to be simultaneous, putting pressure on multiple points of the Confederate line and preventing Bragg from concentrating his forces in any one area. The Battle of Lookout Mountain, November 24, 1863. The Battle of Lookout Mountain, often referred to as the Battle Above the Clouds, was a critical component of Grant's strategy. On November 24, 1863, Major General Joseph Hooker led a force of approximately 10,000 men in an assault on Lookout Mountain. The mountain was heavily fortified by Confederate forces, but Hooker's troops managed to gain the upper hand through a combination of flanking maneuvers and determined fighting. By the end of the day, Union forces had secured Lookout Mountain, giving them a commanding view of the battlefield and forcing the Confederates to retreat to Missionary Ridge. This victory was a significant morale boost for the Union troops and set the stage for the next phase of Grant's plan, the Battle of Missionary Ridge, November 25, 1863. The Battle of Missionary Ridge was the culmination of Grant's strategy and the decisive engagement of the Chattanooga campaign. On November 25, 1863, Grant ordered a coordinated assault on Missionary Ridge, with Sherman's forces attacking the northern end and Major General George H. Thomas's Army of the Cumberland attacking the center. The initial attacks by Sherman's forces were met with stiff resistance, and progress was slow. However, Thomas's troops, inspired by their recent successes and determined to prove their worth after the defeat at Chickamauga, launched a spontaneous and aggressive assault on the center of the Confederate line. Despite being ordered to halt and consolidate their positions, Thomas's men continued their charge up the steep slopes of Missionary Ridge, overwhelming the Confederate defenders and securing a stunning victory. The Union's success at Missionary Ridge effectively broke the Confederate siege of Chattanooga and forced Bragg's army to retreat into Georgia. The battle marked a turning point in the Western theater and set the stage for Sherman's subsequent Atlanta campaign. Key elements of Grant's strategy. Grant's success at Chattanooga can be attributed to several key strategic elements, each of which played a crucial role in the Union victory. Logistical mastery. Reopening the supply lines. One of Grant's most significant achievements at Chattanooga was his ability to address the logistical challenges facing the Union Army. By reopening the Cracker Line and ensuring a steady flow of supplies, Grant not only improved the physical condition of his troops, but also boosted their morale. This logistical mastery was a cornerstone of his overall strategy, allowing the Union forces to transition from a defensive to an offensive posture. Coordinated multi-front attacks. Grant's plan involved coordinated attacks on multiple fronts, a strategy designed to overwhelm the Confederate defenses and prevent Bragg from concentrating his forces. By simultaneously assaulting Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge, Grant forced the Confederates to divide their attention and resources, creating vulnerabilities that the Union forces could exploit. Effective use of terrain. Grant's understanding of the terrain around Chattanooga was instrumental in his success. He recognized the strategic importance of controlling the high ground, particularly Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge. By securing these positions, Grant was able to gain a tactical advantage over the Confederates, using the terrain to his benefit. Leadership and morale. Grant's leadership was a critical factor in the Union victory at Chattanooga. His ability to inspire confidence in his subordinates and maintain the morale of his troops was essential, particularly after the demoralizing defeat at Chickamauga. Grant's calm and decisive leadership provided a steadying influence on the Union forces, enabling them to execute his complex and ambitious plan. Flexibility and adaptability. Throughout the battle, Grant demonstrated a remarkable ability to adapt to changing circumstances. When Sherman's initial assault on Missionary Ridge encountered difficulties, Grant was quick to adjust his plans, allowing Thomas's forces to take the initiative and exploit the opportunities that arose. This flexibility was a hallmark of Grant's strategic approach and contributed significantly to the Union's success. The aftermath and strategic implications. The Union victory at Chattanooga had far-reaching strategic implications for the Civil War. By securing Chattanooga, Grant effectively opened the door for further Union offensives into the Deep South. The city became a vital base of operations for Sherman's Atlanta campaign, which would ultimately lead to the capture of Atlanta and the subsequent march to the sea. The battle also solidified Grant's reputation as one of the Union's most capable generals. His success at Chattanooga led to his promotion to the rank of lieutenant general and his appointment as general-in-chief of all Union armies in March 1864. In this role, Grant would oversee the final campaigns of the Civil War, culminating in the surrender of General Robert East Lee at Appomattox Courthouse in April 1865. The Battle of Chattanooga stands as a testament to General Ulysses S. Grant's strategic brilliance and leadership. Through a combination of logistical mastery, coordinated multi-front attacks, effective use of terrain, and inspirational leadership, Grant was able to secure a decisive Union victory that altered the course of the Civil War. His success at Chattanooga not only lifted the siege of the city but also set the stage for the eventual Union victory in the Western Theater and beyond. Grant's strategies at Chattanooga remain a model of military planning and execution, demonstrating the importance of adaptability, coordination, and decisive action in the face of adversity. The Battle of Chattanooga and its impact on the outcome of the American Civil War. The American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, was a defining moment in United States history, pitting the Northern states, the Union, against the Southern states, the Confederacy, in a brutal conflict over issues of states' rights, slavery, and the future of the nation. Among the many pivotal battles of the war, the Battle of Chattanooga, November 23 to 25, 1863, stands out as a critical turning point. This battle not only secured Union control over a vital strategic location but also set the stage for the eventual collapse of the Confederacy. In this comprehensive analysis, we will explore the events leading up to the Battle of Chattanooga, the battle itself, and its profound impact on the overall outcome of the Civil War. The strategic importance of Chattanooga. The geography of Chattanooga. Chattanooga, located in southeastern Tennessee, was a city of immense strategic importance during the Civil War. Nestled along the Tennessee River and surrounded by mountains, Chattanooga served as a key transportation hub. The city was a junction for several major railroads, including the Nashville and Chattanooga Railroad, the Western and Atlantic Railroad, and the Memphis and Charleston Railroad. These rail lines connected the Confederacy's eastern and western theaters, allowing for the rapid movement of troops, supplies, and communication. Control of Chattanooga meant control over the flow of resources and reinforcements between the Confederate heartland and its armies in the field. For the Union, capturing Chattanooga would sever these vital supply lines, isolate Confederate forces, and open the door for an invasion of the Deep South. The Western Theater of the Civil War. The Western Theater of the Civil War encompassed the area between the Appalachian Mountains and the Mississippi River. This region was crucial for both the Union and the Confederacy, as it contained fertile farmland, industrial resources, and key waterways. The Union strategy in the West focused on gaining control of the Mississippi River and splitting the Confederacy in two, a plan famously encapsulated by General Winfield Scott's Anaconda Plan. By 1863, the Union had achieved significant successes in the Western Theater, including the capture of New Orleans and the fall of Vicksburg, which gave the Union control of the Mississippi River. However, Chattanooga remained a Confederate stronghold, and its capture was essential for the Union to maintain momentum and press further into the South. The road to Chattanooga. The path to the Battle of Chattanooga was paved with earlier engagements, most notably the Battle of Chickamauga, September 19 to 20, 1863. This battle, fought just south of Chattanooga, was one of the bloodiest of the war and resulted in a Confederate victory. Despite their success, the Confederates failed to capitalize on their triumph, allowing the Union Army of the Cumberland, under the command of Major General William S. Rosecrans, to retreat to Chattanooga and fortify the city. The Confederate Army of Tennessee, led by General Braxton Bragg, pursued Rosecrans but chose to lay siege to Chattanooga rather than launch an immediate assault. This decision would prove costly, as it gave the Union time to reinforce and reorganize its forces. The Siege of Chattanooga. The Confederate siege. Following the Battle of Chickamauga, General Bragg's Confederate forces surrounded Chattanooga, cutting off Union supply lines and subjecting the city to a siege. The Confederates occupied key positions on Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge, which provided them with commanding views of the city and the surrounding terrain. From these vantage points, Confederate artillery could bombard Union positions and disrupt supply routes. The Union forces in Chattanooga faced dire conditions. With supply lines severed, food and ammunition became scarce, and morale plummeted. The situation was so desperate that Union soldiers referred to the siege as the Siege of Starvation. Union reinforcements and leadership changes. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, President Abraham Lincoln and his advisors took swift action to relieve Chattanooga. In October 1863, Major General Ulysses S. Grant was appointed commander of the newly formed Military Division of the Mississippi, which encompassed all Union forces in the Western Theater. Grant immediately set about reorganizing the Union armies and planning a counteroffensive. Grant dispatched Major General Joseph Hooker with reinforcements from the Army of the Potomac and ordered Major General William T. Sherman to bring the Army of the Tennessee from Mississippi to Chattanooga. These reinforcements bolstered the Union's strength and set the stage for a decisive confrontation. The Cracker Line and breaking the siege. One of Grant's first priorities was to reopen supply lines to Chattanooga. In late October 1863, Union forces under Major General George H. Thomas successfully established a new supply route, known as the Cracker Line, by capturing Brown's Ferry on the Tennessee River. This allowed supplies to flow into the city, alleviating the immediate crisis and boosting Union morale. With the siege effectively broken, Grant turned his attention to planning an offensive to drive the Confederates from their positions around Chattanooga. The Battle of Chattanooga. Prelude to battle. By late November 1863, the Union forces in Chattanooga were ready to take the offensive. Grant's plan called for a coordinated assault on the Confederate positions on Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge. The Union Army was divided into three main components: the Army of the Cumberland under Thomas, the Army of the Tennessee under Sherman, and Hooker's forces. The Confederates, meanwhile, were plagued by internal divisions and leadership issues. General Bragg's relationship with his subordinates was strained, and his decision-making during the battle would come under scrutiny. The Battle of Lookout Mountain, November 24, 1863. The Battle of Chattanooga began with Union forces attacking Lookout Mountain, a steep and heavily fortified position southwest of the city. On November 24, Hooker's troops launched an assault on the mountain, which became known as the Battle Above the Clouds due to the foggy conditions. Despite the challenging terrain, Union forces made steady progress, driving the Confederates from their positions. By the end of the day, Lookout Mountain was in Union hands, and the Confederates were forced to retreat to Missionary Ridge. The Battle of Missionary Ridge, November 25, 1863. The decisive engagement of the Battle of Chattanooga took place on Missionary Ridge, a long, steep elevation east of the city. On November 25, Grant ordered a coordinated assault on the Confederate positions. The plan called for Sherman to attack the northern end of the ridge, while Thomas's Army of the Cumberland would demonstrate against the center to pin down Confederate forces. However, the battle did not go according to plan. Sherman's attack stalled in the face of stiff Confederate resistance, and Thomas's troops, frustrated by their earlier defeat at Chickamauga, took matters into their own hands. Without orders, they charged up the steep slopes of Missionary Ridge, overwhelming the Confederate defenses and capturing the ridge. The Confederate army was routed, and Bragg's forces retreated in disarray. The Union victory at Missionary Ridge marked the end of the Battle of Chattanooga and a significant turning point in the war. The aftermath of the battle casualties and losses. The Battle of Chattanooga resulted in heavy casualties for both sides. The Union suffered approximately 5,800 killed, wounded, or missing, while the Confederates lost around 6,700 men. Despite these losses, the Union's victory was decisive and had far-reaching consequences. Strategic implications. The Union's capture of Chattanooga had several critical strategic implications. Control of key transportation routes. With Chattanooga in Union hands, the Confederacy lost a vital transportation hub, severing its supply lines and hindering its ability to move troops and resources between the eastern and western theaters. Opening the door to the Deep South, Chattanooga's fall paved the way for Union General William T. Sherman's Atlanta campaign and his subsequent march to the sea, which devastated the Confederate heartland and further weakened the Southern war effort, boosting Union morale. The victory at Chattanooga provided a much-needed boost to Union morale after the defeat at Chickamauga and reinforced the belief that the Confederacy could be defeated, undermining Confederate leadership. The defeat at Chattanooga exacerbated tensions within the Confederate high command. General Bragg's leadership was widely criticized, and he resigned shortly after the battle, further destabilizing the Confederate war effort. Impact on the Civil War's outcome. The Battle of Chattanooga was a turning point in the Civil War, with profound implications for the conflict's outcome. Shift in momentum. The Union victory at Chattanooga marked a shift in momentum in favor of the North. It demonstrated the Union's ability to coordinate large-scale offensives and achieve decisive victories, setting the stage for future successes. Preparation for the Atlanta campaign. Chattanooga's capture provided the Union with a secure base of operations for Sherman's Atlanta campaign, which would further weaken the Confederacy and contribute to President Lincoln's re-election in 1864. Isolation of Confederate forces. By severing the Confederacy's supply lines and isolating its armies, the Union's control of Chattanooga made it increasingly difficult for the South to sustain its war effort. Psychological impact. The defeat at Chattanooga dealt a psychological blow to the Confederacy, undermining confidence in its leadership and the viability of its cause. Long-term consequences and legacy. The road to Appomattox. The Union victory at Chattanooga set the stage for the final phase of the Civil War. With the Confederacy's Western armies in disarray and its supply lines severed, the Union was able to concentrate its efforts on defeating the Confederate forces in the East. The capture of Chattanooga paved the way for Sherman's march through Georgia and the Carolinas, which further weakened the Confederacy and contributed to its eventual surrender at Appomattox Courthouse in April 1865. The impact on military strategy. The Battle of Chattanooga highlighted the importance of logistics, coordination, and leadership in military operations. Grant's ability to reorganize and reinforce the Union armies, as well as his effective use of combined arms tactics, served as a model for future military campaigns. The legacy of Chattanooga today. The Battle of Chattanooga is remembered as one of the most significant engagements of the Civil War. The city's strategic importance and the Union's decisive victory are commemorated through numerous monuments, parks, and historical sites, including the Chickamauga and Chattanooga National Military Park. The Battle of Chattanooga was a pivotal moment in the American Civil War, with far-reaching consequences for the conflict's outcome. By securing control of this vital transportation hub, the Union was able to sever the Confederacy's supply lines, isolate its armies, and pave the way for further advances into the South. The victory at Chattanooga boosted Union morale, undermined Confederate leadership, and set the stage for the eventual Union triumph. As such, the Battle of Chattanooga stands as a testament to the importance of strategy, leadership, and determination in shaping the course of history. The main challenges faced by the Union troops during the Battle of Chattanooga. The Battle of Chattanooga, fought from November 23 to November 25, 1863, was a pivotal engagement in the American Civil War. It marked a significant turning point in the Western theater, leading to the eventual Union victory in the region. However, the Union troops faced numerous challenges during this battle, which tested their resilience, strategy, and determination. This article delves into the primary obstacles encountered by the Union forces, examining the logistical, tactical, and human factors that shaped the course of the battle. Geographical and topographical challenges. The terrain of Chattanooga, located in southeastern Tennessee, is nestled in a valley surrounded by mountains and ridges. The city's strategic importance lay in its position as a major railroad hub, connecting the eastern and western parts of the Confederacy. However, the surrounding terrain posed significant challenges for the Union troops. Missionary Ridge. To the east of Chattanooga, Missionary Ridge presented a formidable obstacle. Its steep slopes and dense vegetation made it difficult for Union forces to advance. The Confederate Army had fortified the ridge, making it a strong defensive position. Lookout Mountain. To the southwest, Lookout Mountain loomed over the city. Its elevation provided the Confederates with a commanding view of the surrounding area, allowing them to monitor Union movements and direct artillery fire with precision. Tennessee River. The river flowed around Chattanooga, creating a natural barrier. While it provided a means of supply and reinforcement, It also limited the Union's ability to maneuver and required the construction of pontoon bridges for troop movements. Weather conditions. The weather during the Battle of Chattanooga was another significant challenge. The autumn months brought rain and cold temperatures, which affected the Union troops in several ways. Muddy terrain. The rain turned the already difficult terrain into a quagmire, making it hard for troops to move and for supply wagons to reach the front lines. Cold and exposure. The cold weather led to cases of hypothermia and frostbite among the soldiers, particularly those who were poorly equipped or lacked adequate shelter. Reduced visibility. Fog and mist, common in the region during this time of year, reduced visibility, making it difficult for Union commanders to coordinate movements and for artillery to target Confederate positions accurately. Logistical challenges. Supply lines and starvation. One of the most critical challenges faced by the Union troops was the disruption of their supply lines. After their defeat at the Battle of Chickamauga in September 1863, the Union Army of the Cumberland, commanded by Major General William S. Rosecrans, retreated to Chattanooga. The Confederates, under General Bragg, quickly moved to besiege the city, cutting off most of the Union supply routes. The Cracker Line. The only remaining supply route was a precarious path known as the Cracker Line, which ran along the Tennessee River. This route was vulnerable to Confederate attacks and could only provide a limited amount of supplies. As a result, the Union troops in Chattanooga faced severe shortages of food, ammunition, and other essentials. Starvation and morale. The lack of food led to widespread starvation among the Union soldiers. Rations were reduced to a minimum, and many troops resorted to foraging for whatever they could find. The constant hunger took a toll on morale, with soldiers becoming increasingly demoralized and less effective in combat. Reinforcements and coordination. The Union High Command recognized the dire situation in Chattanooga and took steps to reinforce the beleaguered Army of the Cumberland. However, coordinating these reinforcements posed significant challenges. Distance and time. Reinforcements had to be transported over long distances, often through hostile territory. The time it took for these troops to arrive delayed the Union's ability to mount an effective counteroffensive command structure. The arrival of reinforcements, including the 11 and 12 Corps from the Army of the Potomac under Major General Joseph Hooker, and the Army of the Tennessee under Major General Ulysses S. Grant, created a complex command structure. Coordinating the actions of these different forces required careful planning and communication, which was not always easy to achieve. Tactical challenges. Confederate defensive positions. The Confederate Army had established strong defensive positions around Chattanooga, which posed significant tactical challenges for the Union troops. Entrenchments and fortifications. The Confederates had dug extensive entrenchments and built fortifications on Missionary Ridge and Lookout Mountain. These positions were well protected and difficult to assault, requiring the Union forces to devise innovative tactics to overcome them. Artillery advantage. The elevated positions of Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge gave the Confederates a significant artillery advantage. They could rain down fire on Union positions with relative impunity, causing casualties and disrupting Union movements. Urban warfare. The city of Chattanooga itself presented unique challenges for the Union troops. Urban warfare was still a relatively new concept during the Civil War, and the Union forces had to adapt to fighting in a built-up environment. Street fighting. The narrow streets and buildings of Chattanooga made it difficult for Union troops to maneuver and coordinate their actions. The close quarters also favored the defenders, who could use the urban landscape to their advantage. Civilian population. The presence of civilians in the city added another layer of complexity. The Union troops had to balance their military objectives with the need to protect non-combatants, which could limit their tactical options. Human and psychological challenges. Morale and leadership. The Union troops faced significant psychological challenges during the Battle of Chattanooga, particularly in the aftermath of their defeat at Chickamauga. Low morale. The defeat at Chickamauga had a demoralizing effect on the Union soldiers. Many were exhausted, hungry, and uncertain about their chances of success. Restoring morale was a critical task for Union commanders, who had to inspire their troops to fight on despite the odds. Leadership changes. The Union High Command made several changes in leadership in the lead-up to the Battle of Chattanooga. Major General Ulysses S. Grant was given overall command of the Western Theater, replacing Rosecrans. While Grant's leadership would ultimately prove decisive, the transition period created uncertainty and required adjustments in command and strategy, casualties and medical care. The Battle of Chattanooga resulted in significant casualties on both sides, and the Union troops faced challenges in providing medical care to the wounded. Field hospitals. The Union Army established field hospitals to treat the wounded, but these facilities were often overwhelmed by the number of casualties. Medical supplies were in short supply, and the quality of care varied widely. Evacuating the wounded from the battlefield was a difficult and dangerous task. The rough terrain and limited transportation options made it hard to move casualties to safety, and many soldiers died from their injuries before they could receive proper medical attention. Strategic challenges. Coordination with other theaters. The Union High Command had to balance the needs of the Chattanooga campaign with other strategic priorities across the country. Eastern Theater. The Union Army of the Potomac was engaged in its own campaigns in the Eastern Theater, particularly in Virginia. Resources and reinforcements had to be allocated carefully to ensure that both theaters could achieve their objectives. Naval blockade. The Union Navy was conducting a blockade of Confederate ports, which required significant resources and attention. The success of the blockade was crucial to the overall Union strategy, but it also meant that fewer resources were available for the Chattanooga campaign. Political pressures. The Battle of Chattanooga took place against a backdrop of political pressures and public opinion, public expectations. The Union public was growing increasingly impatient with the progress of the war. The defeat at Chickamauga had been a significant blow to morale, and there was pressure on the Union High Command to achieve a decisive victory at Chattanooga. Political interference. The Union government, particularly President Abraham Lincoln, was closely monitoring the situation in Chattanooga. Political considerations sometimes influenced military decisions, adding another layer of complexity to the Union's strategic planning. The Battle of Chattanooga was a complex and challenging engagement for the Union troops. They faced numerous obstacles, from the difficult terrain and harsh weather conditions to logistical shortages and tactical dilemmas. Despite these challenges, the Union forces, under the leadership of Major General Ulysses S. Grant, were able to overcome the odds and achieve a decisive victory. This success not only secured Chattanooga for the Union but also paved the way for further advances into the Deep South, ultimately contributing to the Union's victory in the Civil War. The challenges faced by the Union troops during the Battle of Chattanooga highlight the resilience and determination of the soldiers and their commanders. Their ability to adapt to difficult circumstances and overcome significant obstacles is a testament to the strength of the Union war effort and a key factor in the eventual outcome of the conflict. The role of weather in the battles of Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge. The battles of Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge, fought in November 1863, were pivotal engagements in the American Civil War. These battles marked a turning point in the Western Theater, as Union forces under Major General Ulysses S. Grant successfully broke the Confederate siege of Chattanooga, Tennessee. While tactics, leadership, and troop morale were critical factors in the Union victories, the weather conditions during this campaign also had a profound impact on the battles. From the dense fog that shrouded Lookout Mountain to the cold, wet conditions that plagued both armies, the elements shaped the strategies, movements, and outcomes of these clashes. The strategic importance of Chattanooga. Before delving into the weather's impact, it is essential to understand the strategic significance of Chattanooga. Situated at the junction of key railroads and the Tennessee River, Chattanooga was a vital supply hub and transportation center. Control of the city was crucial for both the Union and Confederate armies. By late 1863, Confederate General Braxton Bragg had laid siege to the city, cutting off Union supply lines and forcing Major General William S. Rosecrans' Army of the Cumberland into a precarious position. The arrival of Ulysses S. Grant and reinforcements from the Army of the Tennessee and the Army of the Potomac shifted the balance, but the weather would play a decisive role in the ensuing battles. Weather conditions during the Chattanooga campaign. The autumn of 1863 brought unpredictable and often harsh weather to the region. The battles of Lookout Mountain, November 24, 1863, and Missionary Ridge, November 25, 1863, were fought during a period of fluctuating temperatures, rain, and fog. These conditions influenced the terrain, visibility, and the physical endurance of the soldiers. Rain and mud. In the weeks leading up to the battles, heavy rains turned the roads and fields around Chattanooga into a quagmire. The constant downpours made movement difficult for both armies, particularly for the Confederates, who were positioned on the high ground of Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge. The muddy conditions slowed the transport of supplies, artillery, and reinforcements, exacerbating the logistical challenges faced by both sides. For the Union forces, the rain made it difficult to maintain supply lines and coordinate movements. However, the Union's control of the Tennessee River allowed them to establish a new supply route, known as the Cracker Line, which mitigated some of the weather-related challenges. In contrast, the Confederates, who relied on overland supply routes, struggled to maintain their positions as the rain turned the roads into impassable mud, fog, and visibility. One of the most dramatic weather-related events occurred during the Battle of Lookout Mountain, often referred to as the Battle Above the Clouds. On the morning of November 24, a thick fog enveloped the mountain, reducing visibility to just a few feet. This fog played a crucial role in the Union's success. Union forces under Major General Joseph Hooker advanced up the slopes of Lookout Mountain under the cover of the fog. The dense mist obscured their movements, preventing Confederate defenders from accurately targeting them. The fog also created confusion among the Confederate troops, who were unable to gauge the size or direction of the Union assault. By the time the fog lifted, Union forces had gained a significant foothold on the mountain, forcing the Confederates to retreat. Cold temperatures. The battles were fought in late November, and the temperatures were often cold, especially at night. The cold weather added to the hardships faced by the soldiers, many of whom were ill-equipped for winter conditions. The Union troops, who had recently received reinforcements and supplies, were better prepared for the cold than their Confederate counterparts. The Confederates, already suffering from shortages of food and clothing, found the cold temperatures particularly debilitating. The Battle of Lookout Mountain, weather as a tactical advantage. The Battle of Lookout Mountain demonstrated how weather could be leveraged as a tactical advantage. The dense fog that blanketed the mountain on November 24 allowed Union forces to advance with minimal casualties. The fog not only concealed their movements, but also disrupted Confederate communications and coordination. By the time the fog cleared, Union troops had secured key positions on the mountain, forcing the Confederates to withdraw. The weather also played a role in the aftermath of the battle. As night fell, temperatures dropped, and a light rain began to fall. The cold, wet conditions made it difficult for both sides to regroup and tend to the wounded. However, the Union's success on Lookout Mountain boosted their morale and set the stage for the decisive Battle of Missionary Ridge the following day. The Battle of Missionary Ridge, weather and terrain. The Battle of Missionary Ridge, fought on November 25, 1863, was marked by clear skies and cooler temperatures. While the weather was less severe than during the Battle of Lookout Mountain, the terrain and previous weather conditions still influenced the battle. The slopes of Missionary Ridge were steep and rugged, made even more challenging by the recent rains, which had turned the ground slippery and unstable. Despite these obstacles, Union forces launched a daring assault on the Confederate positions. The clear weather allowed Union artillery to provide effective support, while the cold temperatures kept the soldiers alert and focused. The Confederates, who had been weakened by the previous day's defeat at Lookout Mountain and the ongoing supply shortages, were unable to hold their positions. The Union's relentless advance up the ridge, combined with the favorable weather conditions, led to a decisive victory. The weather conditions during the battles of Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge were a double-edged sword. While the rain and mud created logistical challenges for both armies, the fog at Lookout Mountain provided the Union with a critical tactical advantage. The cold temperatures tested the endurance of the soldiers but also kept them alert during the fighting. Ultimately, the Union's ability to adapt to and exploit the weather conditions contributed to their success in breaking the Confederate siege of Chattanooga. These battles underscore the importance of environmental factors in military campaigns. Weather can shape the outcome of battles, influence strategy, and test the resilience of soldiers. In the case of Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge, the weather was not just a backdrop to the fighting, it was an active participant in the drama of war. The role of the Cracker Line supply route in the Union's victory at Chattanooga. The American Civil War, a pivotal conflict in United States history, was marked by numerous battles and strategic maneuvers that determined the fate of the nation. Among these, the Battle of Chattanooga stands out as a critical turning point in the Union's campaign to regain control of the South. Central to the Union's success at Chattanooga was the establishment and maintenance of the Cracker Line, a vital supply route that ensured the sustenance and reinforcement of Union forces besieged in the city. This article delves into the intricate details of the Cracker Line, exploring its origins, implementation, and the pivotal role it played in the Union's victory at Chattanooga. The strategic importance of Chattanooga. The geographic significance of Chattanooga. Chattanooga, located in southeastern Tennessee, was a strategic prize for both the Union and Confederate forces due to its geographic location. Nestled along the Tennessee River and surrounded by mountains, Chattanooga served as a crucial transportation hub. The city was a gateway to the Deep South, with railroads connecting it to Atlanta, Nashville, and other key cities. Control of Chattanooga meant control over the flow of supplies, troops, and communication lines, making it a focal point of military operations in the Western Theater. The Union's Western Campaign. By mid-1863, the Union had made significant gains in the Western Theater, with victories at Shiloh, Corinth, and Vicksburg. These successes had opened the Mississippi River to Union control, effectively splitting the Confederacy in two. However, the Union's advance into the heart of the South required the capture of Chattanooga. The city's fall would pave the way for an invasion of Georgia and further isolate Confederate forces in the West. The Confederate defense of Chattanooga. Recognizing the strategic importance of Chattanooga, Confederate forces under General Braxton Bragg fortified the city and its surrounding areas. Bragg's Army of Tennessee occupied key positions on Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge, giving them a commanding view of the city and its approaches. The Confederates aimed to hold Chattanooga at all costs, as its loss would jeopardize their hold on the Western Theater and expose the Deep South to Union invasion. The Siege of Chattanooga. The Union's initial advance. In September 1863, Union forces under Major General William S. Rosecrans advanced towards Chattanooga, forcing Bragg to abandon the city without a fight. Rosecrans, believing Bragg's army to be in disarray, pursued the Confederates into Georgia. However, Bragg had regrouped and launched a counterattack at the Battle of Chattanooga, resulting in a devastating Union defeat. Rosecrans' army retreated to Chattanooga, where they found themselves besieged by Confederate forces. The Confederate siege. Bragg's army encircled Chattanooga, cutting off Union supply lines and effectively trapping Rosecrans' forces. The Confederates controlled the railroads and roads leading into the city, leaving the Union troops with limited access to food, ammunition, and reinforcements. The situation grew dire as supplies dwindled, and morale among the Union soldiers plummeted. The Union Army was on the brink of starvation, and without a reliable supply route, the prospect of holding Chattanooga seemed bleak. The Union's desperation. The Union High Command recognized the gravity of the situation in Chattanooga. President Abraham Lincoln and Secretary of War Edwin M. Stanton understood that the loss of Chattanooga would be a significant setback for the Union's Western campaign. Immediate action was required to relieve the besieged forces and reopen supply lines. The task fell to Major General Ulysses S. Grant, who was appointed commander of the Military Division of the Mississippi in October 1863. Grant's first priority was to break the Confederate siege and restore the flow of supplies to Chattanooga. The birth of the Cracker Line. The plan to reopen supply lines. Grant's strategy to relieve Chattanooga involved reopening a secure supply route to the city. The most direct route, the Tennessee River, was under Confederate control, making it impassable for Union supply boats. Grant needed an alternative route that could bypass Confederate positions and deliver much-needed supplies to the beleaguered Union forces. The role of Major General William F. Baldy Smith. Major General William F. Baldy Smith, chief engineer of the Army of the Cumberland, played a crucial role in devising the plan to establish a new supply route. Smith proposed a route that would utilize the Tennessee River and a series of roads and trails to bypass Confederate positions. The plan involved crossing the river at Brown's Ferry, a location south of Chattanooga, and establishing a pontoon bridge to facilitate the movement of supplies. The execution of the plan. On the night of October 26, 1863, Union forces under the command of Brigadier General William B. Hazen launched a surprise attack on Confederate positions at Brown's Ferry. The operation was a success, and Union troops secured the crossing point. Engineers quickly constructed a pontoon bridge, allowing supplies to be transported across the river. The new supply route, dubbed the Cracker Line by the soldiers, was established, providing a lifeline to the besieged Union forces in Chattanooga. The Cracker Line in operation. The logistics of the Cracker Line. The Cracker Line was a complex logistical operation that required careful coordination and execution. Supplies were transported by boat from Bridgeport, Alabama, down the Tennessee River to Brown's Ferry. From there, they were carried overland via wagons and mules to Chattanooga. The route was precarious, as it passed through rugged terrain and was vulnerable to Confederate attacks. However, the Union's control of key positions along the route ensured the safe passage of supplies. The impact on Union morale. The establishment of the Cracker Line had an immediate and profound impact on Union morale. The arrival of food, ammunition, and reinforcements boosted the spirits of the besieged soldiers, who had been on the brink of starvation. The Cracker Line not only sustained the Union Army but also allowed for the buildup of forces necessary to break the Confederate siege. The soldiers, who had been demoralized by their defeat at Chickamauga and the subsequent siege, now had renewed hope and determination. The Confederate response. The Confederate High Command, particularly General Bragg, was aware of the Union's efforts to reopen supply lines but underestimated the effectiveness of the Cracker Line. Bragg believed that the rugged terrain and the presence of Confederate forces would prevent the Union from establishing a reliable supply route. However, the Union's successful execution of the plan caught the Confederates off guard. Despite attempts to disrupt the Cracker Line, Confederate forces were unable to sever the vital supply route. The Union's counteroffensive. The arrival of reinforcements. With the Cracker Line in place, Grant was able to reinforce the Union Army in Chattanooga. Major General Joseph Hooker's 11 and 12 Corps were transferred from the Eastern Theater to Chattanooga, significantly bolstering Union forces. Additionally, Major General William T. Sherman's Army of the Tennessee was en route from Mississippi, further strengthening the Union's position. The arrival of these reinforcements gave Grant the manpower needed to launch a counteroffensive against Bragg's army. The Battle of Wauhatchie. In late October 1863, Confederate forces under General James Longstreet attempted to disrupt the Cracker Line by attacking Union positions at Wauhatchie, a key point along the supply route. The Battle of Wauhatchie, fought on the night of October 28 to 29, was a fierce engagement that resulted in a Union victory. The successful defense of Wauhatchie ensured the continued operation of the Cracker Line and demonstrated the Union's determination to hold Chattanooga. The Union's preparations for the counteroffensive. With the Cracker Line secure and reinforcements arriving, Grant prepared for a decisive counteroffensive to break the Confederate siege. The plan involved a coordinated attack on Confederate positions on Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge. Grant's strategy aimed to dislodge Bragg's forces from their fortified positions and open the way for a Union advance into Georgia. The battles for Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge. The Battle of Lookout Mountain. On November 24, 1863, Union forces under General Hooker launched an assault on Confederate positions on Lookout Mountain. The battle, often referred to as the Battle Above the Clouds due to the foggy conditions, was a resounding Union victory. Hooker's troops successfully drove the Confederates from their positions, securing control of Lookout Mountain and further weakening Bragg's hold on Chattanooga. The Battle of Missionary Ridge. The following day, November 25, 1863, Grant ordered a general assault on Confederate positions on Missionary Ridge. The Union attack, led by Major General George H. Thomas's Army of the Cumberland, was initially met with fierce resistance. However, the Union troops, motivated by their recent successes and the prospect of breaking the siege, pressed forward with determination. The Confederate lines were eventually overwhelmed, and Bragg's army was forced to retreat. The Union victory at Missionary Ridge marked the end of the Confederate siege of Chattanooga and opened the way for further Union advances into the South. The aftermath of the battles. The Union's victories at Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge were decisive in breaking the Confederate siege of Chattanooga. Bragg's army was forced to retreat into Georgia, leaving Chattanooga firmly in Union control. The success of the Cracker Line had played a crucial role in sustaining the Union Army and enabling the buildup of forces necessary for the counteroffensive. The fall of Chattanooga was a significant blow to the Confederacy and marked a turning point in the Western theater of the Civil War. The strategic impact of the Cracker Line. The role of logistics in Civil War campaigns. The Cracker Line exemplifies the critical importance of logistics in military campaigns. The ability to supply an army with food, ammunition, and reinforcements is often the determining factor in the success or failure of a campaign. The Union's ability to establish and maintain the Cracker Line demonstrated the effectiveness of their logistical planning and execution, which was a key advantage over the Confederacy. The psychological impact of the Cracker Line. Beyond its logistical significance, the Cracker Line had a profound psychological impact on both Union and Confederate forces. For the Union soldiers, the arrival of supplies and reinforcements boosted morale and reinforced their determination to hold Chattanooga. For the Confederates, the failure to sever the Cracker Line was a demoralizing setback that undermined their confidence in Bragg's leadership and their ability to defend key positions. The long-term consequences of the Cracker Line. The success of the Cracker Line had long-term consequences for the Union's Western campaign. With Chattanooga secured, the Union was able to launch further offensives into Georgia, culminating in Sherman's famous March to the Sea. The fall of Chattanooga also weakened the Confederacy's hold on the Western theater, contributing to the eventual collapse of their war effort. The Cracker Line, therefore, played a pivotal role in shaping the outcome of the Civil War. The legacy of the Cracker Line. The Cracker Line. In military history, the Cracker Line is remembered as one of the most successful logistical operations of the Civil War. It serves as a case study in the importance of supply lines and the impact of logistics on military strategy. The operation's success highlights the ingenuity and resourcefulness of Union commanders and their ability to adapt to challenging circumstances. The Cracker Line and the evolution of military logistics. The Cracker Line also represents a significant development in the evolution of military logistics. The operation demonstrated the importance of engineering, coordination, and innovation in overcoming logistical challenges. The lessons learned from the Cracker Line influenced future military operations and contributed to the development of modern logistical practices. The Cracker Line. In popular memory, the Cracker Line has become a symbol of the Union's resilience and determination during the Civil War. It is remembered as a key factor in the Union's victory at Chattanooga and a turning point in the war. The story of the Cracker Line continues to be celebrated in Civil War history and serves as a reminder of the critical role of logistics in military success. Conclusion. The Cracker Line was a pivotal element in the Union's victory at Chattanooga, providing the necessary supplies and reinforcements to sustain the besieged Union forces and enable a successful counteroffensive. The operation's success demonstrated the importance of logistics in military campaigns and highlighted the ingenuity and resourcefulness of Union commanders. The Cracker Line not only secured Chattanooga for the Union but also set the stage for further advances into the South, ultimately contributing to the Union's victory in the Civil War. The legacy of the Cracker Line endures as a testament to the critical role of supply lines in shaping the outcome of military conflicts.